Julian, should we start?
Yes, we start. So,
I'll pass the slide control to you.
okay, thanks. Working well. So, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be on the globe. This is the past competition element working group session live from Shenzhen. So, the usual not well. I hope you're familiar with the fact that anything you may say during the working group session are subject to IPR rules. There are a couple of IETF policies related to the IPR. Some references are listed here. So in case you have any doubt, please refer to those documents or ask the chairs or AD. Kitan is on the bridge as well. So make sure that you are fully aligned with the IETF policy about the intellectual right properties when you come on attend IETF sessions. So the session is recorded. The session is broadcasted online, and people are joining from various places, including myself. So to make sure everything will work fluently or will work properly, there is a queue mechanism. You may join the queue using either the full heavy mythical client or the light one quickly for your mobile phone. Join the queue, and Dragonai will manage the floor with respect to the queue at the mic. Remote participant, in case you run talking, make sure your mic is off. We can mute you, I think, but make sure you have the right to speak before taking the floor. We highly recommend the headset, especially for people who will present, because usually that's the best way to achieve decent sound quality. Reminder to remind to keep in mind to state your name when you start to raise a question. This will be particularly full for the minutes. So about the minutes, Andrew is on the bridge. So as usual, it's taking minutes. To give him a hand, here's the link. You may use it especially to make sure you properly reflect what you've been trying to say during the session, or make sure your name is properly spelled and so on. Feel free to give him a hand. Um, so we've already spoken about the queue. And as you know as well, there is a chat available either directly from the medical client or using the Zulip tool you should refer to. You will remember about the working group work. Make sure you actually use the list. So over the past few weeks, I think the traffic on the list has been decent, but we would like to see working group participants to be more vocal during critical states, especially during working group last call, working group adoption of new work, and so on. We really need to be able to judge about the consensus on a given topic to progress any document within the IETF. So Rob and I really appreciate when people share their views on the thoughts using the mailing list, and especially as well contributors of documents. Feel free also to use the mailing list or to CC the mailing list when you have significant progress over the document. It shows us how alive the documents are, what the progress are, on where the issues may raise, on where the working group may have views to share with the working group, the document editors. A couple of links here. One to the working group wiki, where you'll be able to witness the queues we have for working group adoption and working group last call. The GitHub, We don't have that much work on GitHub in the PCE working group, but that remains a useful tool for various working groups within the IETF. So it's good to try to make use of it as much as possible. And a reminder about early code point allocation that we will tackle a bit later during this introduction. So here is the agenda. So as usual, a stateful related session, a segment routing focused session on the miscellaneous session at the end. So unless anyone has anything to bash or any comment to share, you'll witness that this is a tight agenda. So if you are a presenter, try to respect your time schedule and time frame. So about the working group document, we don't have any new RFC since the previous IETF, but 3 IDs are currently in the editor queue, so almost cooked to be published in the near future. One of them is related to the multipass document, which is progressing on its side as well. So the third one will be unlocked when the multipass document will be available. No blocking issue there, just delay. And we have another ID, which is in the end of the IESG related to the circuit style extension in PSEP. So the approval announcement has been sent already, so it's progressing quite well. So we have the multipass document. So the working group last call was extended before the ETF. I think the official date is already behind us. So I think it's ready to move forward. It already has some early allocation of code points, so we're quite confident that it will be okay. As Ketan reminded us a couple of some time ago, in any case, the registry won't free the allocated code points, so it leaves us some time to publish a document and make sure the code points are early allocated will be finally associated to this specification. The bidirectional segment routing extension also has some early allocation on the document is with the RFC editor, so no issue there. The circuit style is already with the AESG. The ANI is aware that the document is progressing, so even if the deadline may be reached, we're in a situation where we don't have any concern about the outgoing result about the code point management here, so we're quite good. And the point to multi-point SR policy, the code points were already renewed a couple of times, so it would be nice to progress the document before this summer. Other documents. So we have the usual liaisons with the ITUT about their work plan, and we may be involved in any response to the ITUT about the work in progress in the past Computation Element working group. So usual polite communication with the ITUT on our topics. No issue for the PC working group at this stage. So we move to the status of the IDs. Do you want to take the floor there, bro?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, so let's quickly talk over some of the working group IDs and are the open issues and next step. Any of the authors or editors of these documents, if they want to add a little bit more information, please use this time to do that. Uh, the first thing that we have is the state sync document. These are the documents that have passed working group last call, but they have not yet been sent to the AD. We had a little change in the shepherd for the state sync document. We have Andrew now, who's going to shepherd. Andrew has promised to do the shepherd review after the IETF meeting. And then, moment that is done, we will be progressing this to our AD. With FlexGrid document, we had an update, but there is still one pending comment when we were checking. And Hamian, if you want to add more information, please feel free.
Yes, I confirm Andrew's comments in working group last call are still pending, and we will publish an update soon.
Yeah, once that is done, I think we have the shepherd reviewed already done. Shepherd review is already handled. So only one pending thing, and then we can most likely send this to the.
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. For the document about PCCC segment routing, this one completed the working group last call. We have Yesong, who has joined us as a shepherd, and we are just waiting for the shepherd review to happen, and then we can send this. So, one message: if folks are interested in document shepherding, please come to chairs and volunteer. This is a good way to learn what happens with the document once the document leaves the working group and how it progresses at the ISG. These are the set of documents which are next in an ordered queue. So we have three items which are in order. We have already done the working group last call for multipath. Adrian has done a shepherd work, and document has made multiple changes. That's why it's on the agenda. And after discussion in this meeting, we will most likely close this and then send this to the AD. After this, we have P2MP policy, which Andrew is shepherding, and we will do the working group last call for this document. This document is also on the agenda. So if people have early comments, now is the perfect time to do that. And after this, we have put PCEP LS, which is an experimental document, up in an ordered queue. The rest of the items are unordered. So if there is any feedback that you have on which document we should progress next, please reach out to chairs and tell why it needs to be priority. It is my document. It is my favorite document. Doesn't really help. Give us reasons like, oh, I have an implementation pending, or I need a particular reason why we should prioritize this. Otherwise, we will try to progress them at the time they entered our queue in the same order. That will be our default, but we are free to change things based on the inputs that we receive. So bunch of documents which are in the queue. After this, IFIT, auto bandwidth, entropy, all of these documents claim they are ready, but we have been highlighting they are still missing important things like implementation section or operational section. So please handle this. Don't wait for last moment to do that. Especially, there has been a lot of discussion on doing operational section correctly. So, and this is important. Try to handle this early, not as the last step. Otherwise, it doesn't help why we are doing this. We want to handle operational consideration while we are developing the protocol extension itself. Uh, some documents which are according to us nearing working group last call. One is the path segment one. This is making good progress in spring. So but we have normative dependency to that, and we are just following up with moment the things happen up in spring, we will do the same in PCE. Then these are some other working group IDs. Some are also expired and have been noted. Some people in the past promised to do reviews which are still pending. So we are reminding Boris and Oscar, you promised us reviews on interdomain draft, which is still pending. Please do that. We need to review each other's work, especially working group documents. That's how we make progress. A few more IDs. As you can see, we have a lot of adopted work. So we need support from the working group to do the reviews. That's how we will make progress. Otherwise, this queue will be a little longer. Okay, that's it. I don't want to take more times, but people have any concern, please use this time or any other status with respect to their working group documents that they want to share with the working group. Please feel free. Otherwise, let's get on with our agenda. Thank you.
So the first presenter should be Samuel, right? Yes, welcome,
Yes.
Samuel.
And Samuel, you should have the slide control.
Yeah, I heard. Thanks a lot. Hi all, Samuel Silver from Cisco. This presentation is about multi-path support in PSEP on behalf of authors. So at first, few words about why the draft is useful. So existing PSEP drafts and RFCs are allowing encoding of single segment lists per candidate path, which is not sufficient for more complex use cases and for modern traffic engineering. One of them is support for ECMP or load balancing across multiple segment lists. Second use case is about path computation for SR policy with higher bandwidth value, which cannot be easily satisfied by single path. For example, because of the limited bandwidth available on specific interfaces, so the bandwidth of the multiple interfaces needs to be combined to satisfy the original requirement of the policy. Third use case is about signaling one or more forward and reverse segment lists for the SR policy, which is required for concepts like circuit style SRT policy. So how we solved it? So we introduced path attribute object, which is used for encoding of path-specific identifier, some flags indicating operational state, direction of the segment list, whether it is forward or reverse segment list, and multiple optional POVs. I will not go over all of them one by one, but we have dedicated TLV for encoding of the segment list date, for the backup segment list association, which was required for the point-to-multipoint protection use case. We have the opposite direction TLV for encoding association between the forward and reverse TLV, reverse segment list. We have the forward class TLV, which was needed for a specific use case of the composite candidate path for peripheral policy. For handling backward compatibility, we introduced dedicated capabilities to make sure that each implementation can advertise support for some of these TLVs. Not all of them needs to be supported by each implementation. In the capability TLV, we are also advertising number of supported segment lists, so it can be negotiated between the PCE peers. So PCC can indicate then it can support, let's say, 5 segment list, PCE up to 10, and the level of those is used. Now for the summary of changes which happened since last IETF. So there were multiple versions submitted since then. So based on the comments received, we made multiple changes in multiple sections. Terminology section was extended. We made it explicit that the PC must not compute more parts than what was negotiated between the PCC and PCE. Multi-path capability TLV can be included in both open object and the LST object, and the clarification was done what it means when the TLV is included by the PCC or PCE in each of those. Then RPNF for the stateful piece messages was updated since the original one included in the previous version was not too strict and was allowing inclusion of multiple arrows even without the path attribute object, so without using the separator between them. So we made it more strict now, and we are allowing two options: either a single arrow or multiple arrows, but always separated by the path attribute object. And the original version of the draft was not updating RBNF for the PC initiate message, so we added it now as well. Then for the multi-path backup TLV, we explicitly specified that point-to-point is out of scope of the draft, and we explicitly clarified that the backup path IDs must match path IDs in same LSP, and a new error message was introduced if the TLV is used for the point-to-point path. For opposite direction TLV, we split the text into two separate sections. Originally, whole description of the TLVs was part of the section 3.5. Now we split it into two parts, so protocol extension and the processing or the operation subsection. So it is consistent with the structure of the other TLVs, and then we introduce some clarifications or some description for the link and node routing flag. We explicitly specify that the path IDs between the forward and reverse segment beans must match, and we fix the typo for the TLV length, which was there on single place. So I hope that all the comments were addressed. If any of them was not addressed yet, please let me know. But I had to cover all of them. So for the next steps, the drought is stable. It is implemented by multiple vendors. So the only thing which I can see as the pending is the closure on the discussion about number of authors, which is still kind of in progress. Thanks a lot for all the comments received, and any discussion is welcome.
Thank you, Samuel, for presenting all these changes that we have made in the working group last call process and during the Shepherd review and everything. This is very good progress that you have made. And we have our document Shepherd for the document coming into the mic. Hi, Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian Farrell as document shepherd. Just to say, it's all kind of ready to go, but I'm waiting for the authors to finish the cycle, and then I will do a recheck of the draft, and then a recheck of the shepherd write-up, and then kick the chairs.
Perfect. You can kick us anytime. Any other questions? Are everybody happy with the changes that are being made? Any concerns? Hearing nothing. Thank you, Samuel.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for listening.
Next up, we have Rakesh. Working.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rakesh Gandhi from Cisco Systems. I'm presenting the draft on precept extensions for PM, for SRTE and MPLSD LSPs with stateful PCE on behalf of my co-authors listed here. So this draft has been around for a while. The scope was TE LSP, and now recently we updated to include the SRTE LSPs, and hence we are here presenting the draft. So we look at in agenda the requirement and scope of the draft, overview of the procedure, a bunch of PCEP extensions, and the next steps. So requirement is to monitor the SRTE as well as MPLST LSPs. This is end-to-end LSP monitoring for delay, loss, liveness, and then it's a proactive monitoring before carrying traffic, or reactive if a threshold is violated, for example. Then stateful PCE can compute path to avoid degraded that violated the SLAs, for example. There is also a use case for reporting real-time bandwidth if you want to implement auto bandwidth on the stateful PCE. So as mentioned, the scope is the PCE and PCC initiated LSPs for both SRTE and MPLST. What's not in scope is how the measurements done, which protocol is used, what PCE does with the measurements, or the streaming telemetry use cases for visualizations and NMS kind of stuff. That's not in scope. So if you look at a very big picture, just a kind of repetition of it, that the focus is in scope PCE and PCC with the PCEP extensions for PM, either enabling PM on the LSPs or monitoring, and basically computing alternate path when path is degraded. What's not in scope is all the telemetry where network analytics, planning, prediction, visualizations, all of the young telemetry is not in this scope. So if you double click a bit more on it, when we talk about PM, here we are talking about LSP, end-to-end measurements, and not about the path computation using the link matrix that's already been around for some time now. So if you double click on what are the PCF extensions we're looking at for LSPs, obviously measurement capability come into the picture, measurement attributes, you want to enable the measurement and specify some parameters for it. And when there are threshold crossings or what's happening with the measurement, you may want to report it to PCE so it can find a different path, for example. So going more into details of various protocol extensions, I may not go into each and every bits and pieces, but idea is that you have a capability for the delay measurement, loss measurement, liveness detection, bandwidth utilization, one-way, two-way, loopback, various modes for each of them. Similarly, in terms of attributes, you want to enable the feature, delay, loss, liveness. You have transmit interval for the packets, what protocol to use, various report thresholds, as well as intervals. And not all TLVs are applicable to all of the cases. For example, you don't have measurement protocol for bandwidth utilization. And then we have extensions for reporting the values. So delay measurement, you may want to report one-way, two-way, loopback delay values. Similarly, for loss, you want to report how many packets were lost or received and sent, as well as for liveness, if the state is up or it's down or there is an error. And the bandwidth samples, if you're implementing auto bandwidth on the PCE. So this is applicable to, Samuel just presented the multipath, and this applies to the multipath for SRT as well. And there is always this overwhelmed state if you have a very high scale and doing lots of measurements, be careful, but there is overwhelmed state notification. So we welcome your comments and suggestions. We want to know, do you think this is useful functionality to have? And if yes, then let's work on it together as a working group document. Thank you. And Andrew?
Thank you, Rakesh.
Hey, you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm guilty of not reading the documents thoroughly, so apologies for that. I was just wondering, the messages with, let's say, bandwidth and delay, the PC report message is still going to be the entire record, correct? Including all of the hop information?
No, so I think they are in sub-TLV format, so only needed sub-TLVs are included and not all of it.
So you would expect a PC report, for example, a regular PC report today could carry all the hop information, whereas for these messages, you would say, okay, the hop information would be omitted.
Yeah, it's just what's enabled that get reported, and those are sub-TLV, so not everything would be there.
I think Andrew is asking what happens to the rest of the report message, because report message has so many other objects and everything that remains to be, that you need to keep sending them.
Okay. I see.
Am I correct?
Yeah, I guess I'm basically just worried that, so take PC today, it's getting reports from the network. You're going to get reports now that contain the statistics information. Do those records also contain information about the state of the LSP? Like, for example, is it deduplicated on the PCC when the PCC sends it? And, or not? Or are you going to get potentially, you're going to get a hop information status update, and 1 millisecond later, you're going to get a statistics update. So I guess I'm looking at it from two angles. Could we get an explosion of PC report messages? And then vice versa, could we get an explosion of PC report messages and we have to process the PC report message in full every single time? And by in full, I mean evaluate the hop instructions, evaluate the operational state, evaluate basically all attributes of the PC report today.
Yes, that's correct. And I think you're alluding to this one, right? So yes.
Yeah.
You have all yes.
Because I like that there was a PC notified to kind of say, hey, I'm overloaded. but even that takes time to push down. And so I was actually debating prior to this, just at a high level, if there's actually a use for an alternative report message, right? Not a path state report message, but an alternative message of informational. And so I'll give you an example. Even today, if you send down a PC update, right, you can carry the delay information in a PC update. If that latency, if that delay changes, today you have to send a very formal PC update, get an acknowledgement back with a report, as opposed to some kind of essentially notification that says, hey, for this LSP, these are the newest statistics information. And so from that perspective, that's a PC to PCC that could still be valuable in the PCC to PCE perspective. So it might really be worth evaluating here if this actually justifies requiring a new message.
Yeah, it's a good idea, Andrew, and let's connect offline to double click on it, and yeah, but I like the idea.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Very interesting question. Any other feedback from the working group? Okay, I think we're done with this one. So thank you, Rakesh.
Thank you.
And I think the next presenter will be Andrew.
Yes, good to hear my voice again.
Okay, I'm bringing up your slide. Andrew, do you have the slide control?
Looks like it. Yep. Okay, so hello everybody. I'm going to be just kind of giving an update to the stateful amendments document on behalf of the co-authors. Basically, this document presented back in IETF 123. It actually goes back quite a while. I think it went back like 4 or 5 years now if you really look at the original content. And so this was forked out of the operational clarification document. And there was really kind of 2 major categories in it. One was it introduced this concept of stateful LSP bring-up, essentially skip a PC report. And the second one was to discourage the use of RRO, or recorded route object, for segment routing. So that's the original content that was already presented. That's been pretty static for multiple years now. What is new now in the new version 3 is there's actually a brand new section related to orphan LSPs without delegation. So at the last IETF, this was actually raised by Marina, and thank you very much, Marina, for raising this, that essentially there's a gap in RFC 8281. Basically, if you have a delegated PCE and that delegated PCE dies, well, the RFC says that 2 things can happen. For that specific LSP, either the PCC can give the delegation to a backup PCE, or the backup PCE can request the delegation. But it doesn't actually say how does the backup PC know when to do that or when it should take the action. And so some implementations will just automatically give delegation to a backup PC. In other cases where the PCC expects a backup PC to come take the delegation back, there becomes a challenge there. And so there's some workarounds apparently on some implementations that involve timers. Essentially, there's nothing standardized in how should the backup PC know when to actually take this action. How do you know that an LSP has become orphaned without delegation? And then, of course, there is some questions there about what does it look like if you have more than 2 PCs, right? Are they going to fight over which one should request delegation? Is there race conditions and timing and whatnot? So that problem space was raised by Marina. Again, thank you, Marina, for bringing that. There was a discussion at the last IETF. And so as part of an offline email exchange, we basically said, let's at least comment on this topic inside the stateful amendment document, just because we are making updates to stateful PCE. So the proposal is actually to not solve anything right now, at least in this document, right? Nothing precludes any future documents from describing a better solution or proposing different new encodings, new messaging, whatever. At the moment, this update really just acknowledges there's a problem here, there's a gap. And so to discourage that problem, so that way, implementers and interop doesn't have issues, the text that was in RFC 8231 is essentially being updated to say, you must attempt to redelegate. So you completely avoid the orphan problem by having the PCC redelegate back to a backup PC. So that text from the old to the new you can see went from a may attempt to redelegate to must attempt to redelegate. And then, of course, there's some other text in there that's related to, what does this mean for backwards compatibility. And so, yeah, so on the next steps, obviously, I think the document's pretty, it's got some decent content in it. We don't want to balloon this to try to cover every possible update or every possible tweak. It does have a couple key things that are obviously valuable to anybody implementing PCE. So we're looking for working group adoption. And then there is still the manageability sections and security sections to fill out. To be honest, I don't have a clearer view on what should go in there at the moment, but obviously we'll have to fill something out in there soon. And I think that's everything, so thanks.
At least for the operational section, this is important because there's already deployment. So how do we change things and how would that impact? I think there is a good amount of content to add, especially from the operational side.
Yeah, and so even the latest update tries to cover some of the backwards compatibility discussions to point out some of these changes are backwards compatible or some of them are not, right? Very explicitly, like, so there is those discussion points. I think operationally we'll have to definitely point to those other sections. In terms of more kind of, what does it mean to not signal certain things or do signal things? Well, obviously the backup PCE, to enforce that, you have to have configuration rules and so on. But I think we can kind of go about it that angle so far.
Andrew, one question maybe for the benefit of everyone. If you go to the previous slide, maybe you could also explain that even though this doesn't solve the problem, why is this still worth doing?
In terms of worth doing as an implementation or worth doing as part of the document?
Asking this change that PCC must attempt, because there is still wiggle room there. We say that there is still local policy, there is still this thing. So just so that we are all clear that this change is definitely better, and that's why you're making it. But maybe we need to be explicit why this change is better.
Yeah, true. I can just say at least it is better because you're not going to have any open questions. So if both the PCC and the PCE respect this change, well, then you don't have anything special to worry about. Whereas if you don't do this, it's kind of, well, you don't know. Somebody's going to have to configure something on the PCE that says, hey, you shouldn't expect to receive delegation. And if you have mixed deployments, some PCCs respect redelegating, some of them don't. Again, the PCE doesn't know when it needs to do stuff. So there's going to have to be some other gymnastics there that essentially take place in a non-open standard way and more of a proprietary solution.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. You convinced me. I wanted it to be out in the open, and the rest of the group also should be able to think about it, whether it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, and again, this doesn't say, don't solve this problem. Don't allow PC to do, grabbing delegation. It's just that needs new work, and that work is not going to be trivial or obvious right off the bat. So it's easier to at least acknowledge the problem and kind of discourage it for now until somebody would fix it.
Thank you, Andrew. Any other feedback from anyone? Thank you. I think to me, it is a candidate for adoption for sure. We will definitely, Julian and I will take that into consideration. Thanks.
Cool, thanks.
Next, we have Samuel.
Hello, Samuel Sidel from Cisco again. So this presentation is about the reporting extensions in PCEP, and I'll be presenting it on behalf of authors. If you can see listed in the initial slide. So for the problem which we are trying to solve and the actual solution, there are two gaps which we are trying to address by this draft. Both we are trying to solve by introducing new flags in LSP extended flag TLE. So the first gap is covered by the X flag. The problem is that when PC is receiving the LSP delegation for PC initiated LSP, it cannot easily derive whether the original path was explicitly specified by the operator when the provisioning was done of the PC initiated LSP, or it was computed dynamically. And then what can be the result is that the PC will modify or recompute the path which was explicitly requested by the operator, which is not intended. So the X flag was introduced to indicate the source of the original path. So whether it is operator specified or it was dynamically computed. The second gap is covered by the transit eligible flag. So in PSEP, there was no standard way to discover which binding labels or which binding seats of which PSEP LSPs can be used as a transit seat in the segment list of other policies. So if the T flag is set for the LSP, it indicates that the binding seat may be used in the path computation for the other policies. We have also dedicated capabilities for each of those flags to cover the backward compatibility. So just short summary about the changes which happened since last presentation, which was done in IETF 123. So we made a few changes. We clarified the difference between the X flag and the strict and loose path hops. So where the X flag is the path level attribute, and it is indicating who specified the path originally. So whether it is coming from the operator or it is coming from the dynamic path computation. While the strict or loose is the hop level attribute, so the operator can still strictly specify to go to R2 via specific link, and then loosely to, let's say, R4 via any other link or via any link. So it is basically loose path, but the X flag can be still set to indicate that it was explicitly requested by the operator. On the other hand, there is also option that the PC is computing the path using strict hops only. So basically all the hops are strict, but the X flag is still set to 0 because the path is computed dynamically. There are multiple other small changes done. So we specified the backward compatibility handling. For example, what should happen if the flags are set, if capability was not advertised. Clarification was done for the multiple segment list. The X flag is LSP for the candidate path specific attribute. So it is not allowed to mix dynamic and explicit paths inside of the single CP. We added the examples for board extensions, including some diagrams to indicate what's the actual use case and where the extensions are needed. And we expanded the security considerations and terminology sections with some clarifications. So for the next steps, any comments, any discussion is welcome. Since those changes which were done since the IETF 123 are minor and there are this table, we would like to ask for the adoption. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you, Samuel. Any question for Samuel? Li Jiang? Yeah.
Sorry for missing the previous discussion. I want to just a question for the flag indicating whether the BCD can be used for computing a path because of the defined in RC 96 and 04. If PCC reports a BCD to the PCE, then it means that the PCE can use this BCD to compute a path. So why we need a new flag here to indicate whether it can be used for computing a path?
At least I'm not aware about such existing flags. So the RFC which you refer to is the PCEP RFC?
Yes,
Sorry, I missed
that's what.
That's the binding seat RFC, or I missed the number?
Yeah, that's the one. 9603 is that one.
Yeah.
But
that's
that's specifying whether the B seat should be allocated and who should allocate the binding seat, at least based on what I recall properly. So it is not specifying here what we are what the T flag is specifying is whether that binding seat can be used for the path computation for the other police. So in the segment list of the other policy, you can include the binding seat, let's say in the middle, to make the computed segment list shorter. But my understanding is that the existing binding seat RFC is just specifying the flags which are indicating whether the binding seat should be allocated and who should allocate the binding seat. So whether the binding seat is allocated by PCE or PCC, but not whether the binding seat can be used in the middle of the path computation. So there is no explicit flag like that.
Okay, thank you.
Samuel, it will be good to clarify in the way that without this flag, right now we don't say anything. That means you can use it, you cannot use it. It's allowed. Now, once this comes in, this also mean that only when this flag is enabled, then I will be able to use it? I think that might be the confusion. What I'm hearing.
Yeah. So that's basically without this extension, the behavior is not defined at all. I agree. So finally, what we are trying to introduce here is explicit behavior, but we can make it clear in the draft.
Andrew?
Yeah, I was just going to echo what Samuel was saying. The existing RFC basically gets the configuration down to the actual PCC to say, here's how I want to configure a BSID, whether or not it's self-assigned or I-assigned. I want to configure the BSID. Now that it's been configured, our PCE is allowed to use that binding SID. Because I might have provisioned that binding SID for a special reason. It doesn't necessarily mean that I want anybody to start blindly using it. And so it's just kind of a way to kind of say, hey, TC, you're free to use this binding SID as you choose. It's here. It's something you can tap into. But and otherwise, with this flag, you just basically say, no, don't use this. I'm using it for a specific reason.
Yeah. But we can still clarify that in the draft as well to make it clear. It's not already done because I remember that we added some clarification about the backward compatibility, but we can make it clear.
Yeah. The other thing to consider as well is just from a scaling and performance. If you have a lot of binding SIDs in the network, that's also a lot of information for PCE to track and potentially use. And so by explicitly saying, hey, there's a binding SID here, but I shouldn't use it as part of my computation, that actually reduces, the data space and the search space and so on. Well, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. Let's move to the next. So we are done with our stateful segment, and now we are moving to segment routing. And the first one we have is Human.
Thank you. So we did get some comments on this draft. I really appreciate the comments. I tried to put them into the draft. Have a read and let me know what you think. So just to give you a little bit of update, the first draft, which was the replication, that's already RFC. The next two drafts, one for the actual policy, point-to-multipoint policy, it's still in the editorial queue. The second one, which is the ping, is also still in the editorial queue. The MVPN, EVPN is done with the comments, so it is going into the editorial queue. So there is a good flow here, and obviously the PSEP is the next one that we're looking forward to. So what did we change in the version 14? We fixed a bunch of nits. Thank you for the comments again. The names are there. And we updated the operational consideration. There is a very good point that when it comes to a point-to-multipoint policy, if you are building an entire tree through the network, every single router has to be connected to the PSEP. So there is a scaling consideration here. And that's one thing we put into the operational consideration, that the scaling of this solution might go beyond the unicast source routing. That's the only thing I put in there. I couldn't think of anything else. And the next one was the liveliness detection. So there are two main ways of figuring out the liveliness for this solution. Number one is that we use the draft for the ping extension for point-to-multipoint SR policy. So as that draft is done, you can actually use the ping or the trace route through the tree from the root all the way to the leaf routers to figure out if there is a break in your tree. And if there is a break, you can go to the next candidate path that you have built on the head end, or you can go to the PSEP again and say optimize the tree, depending on what you want to do. But the next thing you can do is that you can actually use the link failure. You can detect that the port has gone down. And based on that, uh, if you have a seed list, you can use the unicast adjacency seed to do a LFA via just a unicast. If you are using unicast to steer the point to multi-point traffic out of the port, you can use the unicast LFA to steer the traffic into an alternative path. Or within the same draft, we do have point to multi-point, uh, I want to call it a fast reroute, not a LFA, where you can set up a fast reroute path via SR policy, via replication segment to protect your original port. So you can use that too to actually do a fast reroute. That's all I had.
Thanks. I put myself in the queue. Related to liveness detection, I think if PCEP is involved in this flow, it's worth including. Otherwise, this is just how things are supposed to happen at the PIM and in the other working groups, right? And when we do liveness detection, we focus mostly on within the PCEP protocol. How do we make sure that everything is up and running?
Okay.
So this information is useful, but I think it could be if it is already exist in another document, you can just reference it
Okay.
and say how the PCE, PCEP protocol or PCE and PCC are involved in this flow. Then it is useful in a PCEP document.
So, sorry, just to make sure I'm getting this correctly. So what you're suggesting is that there should be a paragraph that says the controller or the PCE can see the state of the network, and based on the failure on a link, it can optimize the path or switch the backup candidate path.
Only if that's what it's doing right now. It sometimes feel like everything is a local decision, then nothing PCE is not involved. So I'm not sure with this description what is the role of the PCE in this process.
So what I thought, that again, I'm open.
Hmm.
I'm just giving you what I thought is that the liveliness detection here, it would be more important to say that how you protect local failure or end-to-end tree failure in a fast manner, rather than having the PCE recalculate the tree and download a new optimized.
Yeah, I completely agree. For the document in which we were describing how the whole SR policy, SRP2MP policy works,
Okay.
this document is focusing on PCEP extension.
Okay.
And I was thinking you could, if this information doesn't exist anywhere else, then maybe we can include it. But I was hoping this information would be there in some other document that you already have. We could just reference it there and say how PCEP is involved.
Okay.
And then also talk about things like what happens if PC is no longer there, that
Right.
liveness detection, that how do I detect those things which is already existing. It's not a new thing. PCEP protocol has mechanisms, you're just relying on that itself. So it's a good distinction, especially when we are doing the operational sections in our document and we do features for beer, for DECnet. We don't really want to go into how each of these services are doing liveness detection.
Okay.
We want to focus on the PCEP part.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll massage the text.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Zafar?
Yes. So my comment is about this having a lot of detail regarding FRR in this document, because this is a PCEP version, and for anything that has to do with FRR for point to multipoint SR policy should be done elsewhere and should be clarified elsewhere. I would like to see what is the references used, especially for the link failure triggering local optimization, um, which is obviously not something that PSEP is involved with. But yeah, so I think the comments are twofold. One is that having something that is FRR related, some description here is the misfit, and it should be done elsewhere.
Thank you.
Okay.
And in reference to that, yeah.
And I also owe you comments. I was discussing with Andrew, who's the document shepherd, and somehow I dropped the ball. So I was looking for my email list, and I noticed that I haven't replied to that. So this is just a note to Andrew. I will respond to that, and we will. This is anyway next in our working group last call queue, and we will definitely try to progress this quickly.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We were running ahead of time, but I think we are now exactly where we are supposed to become. So everybody respect the time. We have a bunch of presentations we have still want to go through.
Okay, hello. I'm Minxue Wang from China Mobile, and this is a new draft for the PCEP IPv6 segment routing extensions for the interlayer network programming. And in RFC 8664, this specifies PCEP extensions for supporting SRT ELSP for the MPLS data plan. And then RFC 9603 extends to support SR for the IPv6 data plan and segment routing over IPs for SFAR 6, and it enables the network operator or an application to specify a packet processing program by encoding a sequence of instructions in the IPv6 packet layer. So based on the 89 RFC 8986, so we proposed a draft with already an IETF draft SRv6 interlayer programming to define a new behavior and be used for the steering packet to the underlay network connection. And we have a hackathon this time, and for Saturday and Sunday, and have to an interlayer, multi-vendor interlayer connections. So for this document, we want to extend the PCEP SRv6 for the interlayer network to enable the PCE to instantiate the candidate paths, both the layer 3 network segments and the underlayer segments. So an SRT path consists of one or more seeds, where each seed may be associated with identifiers that represents a node or adjacency corresponding to the seed. So these identifiers refer to NAI. So an NAI can represent it in various formats like IPv4 or IPv6 address. So however, there's no existing layer 3 NAIs applicable to the end IL set, interlayer set. So we think we need a new kind of NAI for this set. And samples to use used for the described underlay network tunnel between the two nodes. And the underlay tunnel ID can be configured by the management system and unified identifiers underlay network tunnel. So the new mainly carries the underlay tunnel ID. So the next step, we will continue to improve this document and stay in sync with work in the spring. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? I have one. If we go back one side, it would also be useful to tell if if I receive this NAI, how am I using this information? We talked about we are configuring tunnel ID at the two endpoints, but also it will be useful to maybe explain how how does this tunnel ID help when I'm setting up the path, for instance. Just as more description. Zafar, do you have a question?
No, I don't.
Okay. Okay, so just as a, I know that the document is already adopted in Spring, so this we are making process. I wanted to make sure that this change that we are proposing
Mhm.
is also explain how one uses it with an example or a figure, that how one used this tunnel ID information while setting up the interlayer path. So maybe a figure or a
Okay.
description would really help and get the point across that
Okay.
why a new NAI is needed.
Okay. We will.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you.
Okay.
So the next presenter is Zafar.
Yes, Zafar, just getting you slide control.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is Zafar Ali. I'm from Cisco Systems. I'm presenting this document about a services list reoptimization related PCEP extension. So just a bit of a history. Been presenting this document quite regularly at the PCE working group. One of the comments earlier was that we need to establish the need for this change from a Spring document. So what we did is that we worked with the Spring working group. We have a draft there in the Spring working group that is now adopted, working group document. What basically that draft talks about is that when SR policy is established, the last SID of the SR policy could be a node SID or could be a Gen Z SID. But when the last SID of SR policy is a node SID, then if the traffic that is steered on that policy already has a locator which matches the same instance at the policy endpoint node SID, then the policy and is encoded in the packet, and then the endpoint has to deal with two back-to-back SIDs. So which is inefficient from the MTU encoding and compression efficiency point of view. So the Spring draft talks about that that in such cases the header node may skip programming of the endpoint node SID. Okay, and that's what is called series optimization. So, like I mentioned, this draft is now in Spring and is adopted. So what we going to next. So for the draft that is in front of us, which is the PCEP extension, we've been like for multiple IETFs, we've been making minor changes. There was one comment that we should make the flag consistent between Spring PCE IDR document, which we have done. We made minor changes. We do not think that there is anything that is outstanding in terms of the comments that we have received so far on this document. We think the draft has been stable. And then with the PCEP, with the Spring establishing the baseline requirement, we really feel that the document is ready for working group adoption, and we would like to move this work forward in the working group. The changes are pretty straightforward. Basically, we have a new SR policy attribute TLVs in the policy association object defined. And then within the new policy attribute TLV, we have one flag that we have defined that basically say that that dictates that, and then for backward compatibility, there's a flag in the SR PCE capability. So it's pretty straightforward extension, and we would like to move the work forward. Thank you.
Any questions for Zafar? None. Let's move to the next, which is also
And just Dhruv and Julian, um, so will you put this in the queue for adoption? Because that's the prerequisite was really getting the Spring document adopted and the need for the work established.
Yeah, Julian and I will discuss after the meeting. There's nothing that seems like it's blocking, but we would definitely like more discussion on the list for sure. And we'll take a decision and let you know. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So then the next draft is the MSD consideration in PSAP. I'll go a little bit of history. So when we were working on the previous draft, which is the cities optimization, Andrew and Diego approached and then mentioned that, look, the same thing happens when you have the first SID of the policy being an agency SID. That first SID um, does not get encoded in the packet as the packet goes forward. So that is not should not be considered under the MSD, but MSD budget of the device or the header. However, when we look at the PSAP um, uh, RFC, the language was very strict in terms of or language very, and you're going to see that language later on in the slides. So I'm going to go there, but the language was very strict. So we thought that okay, maybe some clarification is needed. Now, while we did this, the co-author Leo um, realized the same thing when we have SRH, when we have SRV6 encoding for the policy, and then we are using the reduced flavor of that encoding, then also the destination address is not copied copied into the SRH. So that's another use case for clarification or MSD consideration in PSAP. And then SRV6 RFC was also very strict in terms of the text that is there. And we're going to go over that. So with that, basically, like I mentioned, yeah. So this is the text. So the RFC 8664 text is in front of you. It is quite restrictive in terms of the way it's constructed for a header node to do any leeway, even if it knows that the first SID is UA. Same thing would apply for if the SRH, if the reduced flavor is used. So goal was to really loosen that restriction a bit, or find a way to lose that restriction. And from an SRV6 point of view, these changes really apply to the in-cap MSG. So the changes that are here are with respect to the max h.incaps. Okay. I will go over a bit more, like these are the changes. Okay, so the changes for SRMPLS is pretty straightforward. To make it backward compatible, everything is really about the backward compatibility here. There is a capability exchange, and then within the capability, then there is a flag defined that can actually tell, okay, yeah, the two sides understand. Then the PCE can relax the condition which is in the RFC for in terms of MSG consideration. Same thing for the SRV6 case. SRV6 case has two things. Obviously, the first SID being the agency SID for SRV6 is also applicable. So that what we call A flag, agency SID flag, in that capability, it still applies to both SRV6 and SRMPLS. But in SRV6, there's also an R flag, which is to do with when you're using a reduced flavor, and then you can relax the MSD consideration. And an A flag and R flag can coexist, obviously. So, like I mentioned, what happened is that because these two things were happening, Leo presented his live IETF. So we had discussion, and the feedback from the working group was that why don't the author for the two drafts work together and merge? So that's what we did. We worked together. We have merged the content from the two drafts that are in front of you into one draft that covers both SRv6 and SRNPLS. From the update beside the merge, the content from two drafts are pretty much what was presented in the previous IETFs. So there has not been change to that impact, to that effect. And we feel that this has been, like, because this work happened parallel and been stable for quite some time, so we would like to have a working group adoption. We are open if chair and the work group thinks that we're better off just writing a BIS and then doing these two clarification. We are open to that option because that's another option rather than doing any backward compatible change. So with that, I stop here. My time is over. So
Yes, but we don't have any time for questions. So please start that conversation on the list, the one that you just mentioned about, is this the right option or should we do this? And let's debate it on the list. Thanks.
okay, thank you.
So we move to the next part with PCEP-LS optical.
So we present.
Yes. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm presenting our work on the PCEP-LS extension for optical networks. As we all know, PCE operates on the TED. Traditionally, TED is constructed through the IGP management station, YAN, and the BGP-LS. The PCEP-LS draft defined some fundamental features. We follow all of them. The base PCEP-LS draft was adopted in August 2024, and now is approaching to the working group last call. The PCEP-LS defined some key functions. First, the capability advertisement. During the session establishment, both the PCC and the PCE advertise their support for the PCEP-LS. The second is the link state synchronization. The PCC sends the link state and the information to the PCE. The third is the link state report. The PCC continues to send the LS report to the PCE when the information is changed. Why PCEP-LS is interesting for optical networks? Because the optical network devices have limited capacity for the additional protocols. And the BGP is not running on these devices, but the PCEP is already running for normal PCE reasons. So adding PCEP-LS function is a small increment. The only challenge is that the PCEP-LS only defined some faulty functions. Our document adds some specific capabilities for the optical networks. Let me walk through the specific extensions we define. We include the node attributes and the link attributes in the existing RFCs, assuring the consistency with the existing implementation. The current status is like this. This draft was first posted in August 2016, and it has been waiting for the base PCEP-LS to progress. And now the PCEP-LS is moving, so we have woken up this work. We're synchronizing with the PCEP-LS draft, addressing the reviews, and then make some editorial improvements. Now, it is more than ready for working group adoption. So looking ahead, since this work is started in 2016, we are now seeing that the working group is evolving. The the ODOK can carry thousands of connections. So it increases the IGP pressure, making this work even more important. So we need to make updates to cover the latest optical networks and keep in touch with CCamp, the experts, the optical experts. Okay, thank you. Welcome your questions and comments.
Thank you. Any questions? Zafar, go ahead.
Yeah, my comment reservation has been about this work is because the BGPLS already does this. So PSAP base got adopted because it was an experimental. And we have not seen any update, at least I have not seen, I don't recall any update on that experiment. I think it's just running this, my concern is just running um, uh, an apparel thing for something that has wide deployment across the industry using BGPLS that's the major concern, and having that view of that experiment would be useful.
Adrian?
Adrian Farrell. Yeah, Zafar, you're right. The PCEP LS is experimental and, of course, is still inside the working group. It hasn't popped out. This draft is also marked as experimental. It's kind of continuing that experiment. I would expect to see, maybe actually we'll see the result of optical experiments before we see result of packet experiments, and that's probably okay, because we will then get a feeling of whether there's success or not. But it's certainly not the intention that PCEP LS gets wide deployment in the internet before we understand the results of the experiment.
+1 to that?
Yeah, I think the only comment is that the IGP changes for all of these optical thing were done way long with GMPLS. So is PSAP is the right vehicle? Again, is questionable. I see some justification, but it's not in the slide, but they're not clear. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's move to the next presentation.
Okay. My next presentation is about the extension for PCEP for the fine granularity metro transport network, for short FGMTN, topology resource information reporting and path setup. So there are 3 drafts here. But the first one, second one are reporting and setup separately, and the second one is for the requirement. So let's start from the requirements. So with some new service demand, the transport technology of the MTN and the OTN are all moving forward. The fine-grained hard slices defined in the ITUT, we have a series of recommendations. And for the past computation extension requirements, for this fine-grained transport network, we have a draft presented this morning in this room for CCamp. So the requirement is almost approved and agreed in CCamp. So the reasons for why we need the past computation for those fine-grained transport network are 2 reasons. First is the number of the fine-grained TDM channels. It will significantly increasing. And second one is according to the service requirements, we currently have the passes from the TDM may change frequently and dynamically. So this for the requirements. And following is focused on the FGMTN control and PCP extensions. So for the architecture, we have the centralized control PCE to do the topology resource information collection and calculates the path of FGMTN path channel. And the path computation result is delivered to the P head end. Then we have the distributed control protocols between the devices to allocate TDM calendar slot hop by hop. So both topology result reporting and path setup have not defined for FGMTN. So we think we can propose PCE to extend to meet our requirements. So following are the requirements. And for the topology resource information reporting in PCE-PLS, we want to extend the open object. We need a new flag M in the LS capability TLV flag field for the FGMTN capability. And in the LS object extensions, 4 kinds of link descriptor sub-TLVs. We need to describe the FGMTN resource information like parent, NRP ID, sub-TLV to indicate the slice ID, of course, NRP ID that link belongs to. And for the subslot, bitmap sub-TLV is used to indicate the time slot occupation status of all the FGMTN clients in the link. And then 2 sub-TLVs, sub-slot bitmap relationship TLVs to indicate the relationship between the occupied time slots and the corresponding FGMTN clients. So both by bitmap and by the enumeration value. So for the FGMTN path setup, both PCE initiated and ECC initiated dedication can support it for the FGMTN path setup. And in the PCE initiated centralized control, we need to extend the PC initiate message. And in the PCC initiated, we would like to extend the PC report and PC update. So the object extensions are first, a new path setup type, PST value, need to be defined for MTN path. And in the open object of open message, this FGMTN PST capability can be advertised during the session establishment by the path setup type capability TLV carried within the open object of open message. And then for the stateful operation, the path setup type TLV bearing this FGMTN PST value can be encapsulated with the SRP object of the PC report, PC update, and the PC initiate message. And for the LSP object extension, can have 2 TLVs to respectively specify the ingress and the egress address of the FGMTN tunnel. And then for the ERO object extension, the FGMTN path encoded in the ERO adheres to the strictly hop-by-hop paradigm without IP addresses. So each FGMTN ERO subject contains a strict hop indicator with a L bit set to 0, enforcing the strict hop. A new 7-bit type indicates FGMTN, and the server layer port identifier representing either a 5G MTN port or 10G interface enabled in the fine-grained model. And then the bandwidth object extension, a new bandwidth specific type defined for MTN, wherein the corresponding parameter can carry in the generalized bandwidth TLV to express the number of fine-grained TDM calendar slots in the MTN LSP. So this draft is mainly proposed to extend the PCE object for the FGMTN, and the specific procedure will be detailed in the next version. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? This was discussed in CCamp as well?
Yeah, this morning we just
we have Fatah coming in.
Yeah, Fatai speaking. So actually, this draft, the requirement draft, also discussed in the CCAM. And so from the CCAM chair perspective, we think these three drafts, they more, about PCE extension for FGOTN and FMTN. So they are in the scope of PCE working group. So Daniela sent the email to you to discuss if the requirement should be progressed in PCE or CCAM as well. So I saw your response to us, and you said you are trying to ask the authors to make some progress in other working group and take a CCAM as an example. So I understand that actually even for the requirement draft, it's still in the scope of PCE.
Yeah, I completely agree. What I meant was that we follow the work as it's been done outside. We are not the person who defined and we FGMTN and what are the attributes. We either rely on what ITU sets or what CCAMP. So my question basically was, is those groups ready with us to take on this item or not?
Okay, but regarding the ITUT, I think actually ITUT already have done the data plan technologies standards for the FGOTN and FGMTN. So these guys, they just bring this kind of thing in the IETF. I mean, talking about the country plan stuff. So yeah, good progress in ITUT.
Yeah, thanks for this feedback. Very useful. And of course, we'll do our due diligence, talk to you, talk to our liaisons as well before we take any decisions. But good. So last presentation, let's do that quickly.
Hello, everyone. This is Chuan Xiong from CT. I will present the PCE extensions for dialect banded latency. This document has been presented for many times, and thank you for the comments and suggestions from everybody. And I think we have a rough consensus for most extensions. So we update some of the from version 5 to the version 6. We added some clarification on the encoding and the operations of the DPERO, and we update the encoding format of the DLI, and the define it as the optional and the variable length. And the first update is the options for DPERO sub-objects. We clarified it must not be carried as the first sub-object, and it can be inserted directly after the existing identifying sub-object, and the PCE must select one DLI type from the 7 categories and computer the missed path. So I give some examples for the missed path. For example, if we choose the type 2, and then DLI must carry the deterministic information for time slot. For example, the type 2 time slot A, type 2 time slot B, and the type tab 2, it 10.c. So this is the example for the PCAP option operation. And to address the yellow's concern, we summarize the extensions to align with the deadline progress. We define the metric object to align with the deadline queues as per FRC 8655. We define the calculation method to align with the RFC 9320, and we define the DPERO subject as a DL type to align with the 7 categories. And except the DPERO DLI encoding, I will present the data field in this DataNet meeting. So the authors think it is stable for PCAP extensions. So could it be adopted first, or it must be waiting for the rough consensus in DataNet working groups? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. We will discuss this with DetNet chairs, our ADs, and we will keep you updated. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I hope you had a good meeting. If you have any feedback for the chairs, please reach out. Let's continue to make good progress on our documents. And Julian, last message.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rob, and see you in Vienna, I hope.
I hope you guys enjoy the social tonight. Yay.
Have fun.